Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. In today's topic, orcas, killer whales. Tired of racism toward them? They're attacking boats, ships, etc. One more time. Today's topic is orcas, the killer whales. Tired of racism toward them? They're attacking boats, ships, etc. Yes, I know. I know. A topic like this, you just ain't gonna hear too much about this. I know. I know. But something about this topic, it caught my attention. I don't know how, it just caught my attention on that. So when I looked at what I was looking at, and I saw something about some orcas that were attacking some boats and ships. Okay. However, all right, don't lose no sleep on that. But then I was sitting there just looking at some other things about that. Then that's when I said it caught my attention. And you'll see what I'm getting at in a second on that because this keep this in mind. American blacks. Because I'm doing this topic, this ain't just for the heck of it. It's for a reason why, and definitely relating to some cultural dynamics relating to even American blacks. See, American blacks are told each and every day in some kind of way, direct, indirect, semi, however it goes, to stop talking about racism as if collectively American blacks talk about racism, racism, in which many don't. But in some warped numbers of people within certain sections of predominant culture, their assistants from different parts of different other cultures and backgrounds and certain types of the term lifestyle categories, etc. There are people that have a abnormal hatred of American blacks. Not that collectively American blacks have done things to numbers of personnel within the predominant culture historically. Not that other cultures have had quotas and things like that put upon them by American blacks, right? None of that. But this goodness gracious hatred of American blacks and then people thinking that American blacks are lazy when you got people run over to the states left and right, run away from their own darn countries and people that look like them and their own gov that's doing their own corruption and instead of them demanding that their govs and other people do right and stuff like that, however numbers of ones I'm talking about that do this run from their own countries and come to the states and have the nerve to look down upon American black, that person like that can go to you know what. But relating to this racial racism that is told by American blacks to get over it. Yes, the orcas has something to do with this too as well in relating to this topic. Let me just kind of read you something first. This is a few pieces about orcas. This a half a piece just to kind of set the direction. Orcas are the largest member of the dolphin family. They said the male orcas can be nearly over 30 something feet, over about 10 meters, right? Weighing about around 22,000 pounds, right? 10,000 kilograms. They are highly intelligent and able to coordinate hunting attacks. The dorsal fin of a male orca is up to 6 feet, about 2 meters tall. They were given the name killer whales by ancient sailors. Observations of groups of orcas hunting and preying on larger whale species. Now, keep this in mind. I'm getting to a point here. Orcas worldwide face a number of threats. They get caught in fishing nets and gear them accidentally, facing problems with toxic waste and pollution in the sea. Increase in boat traffic can result in collisions with orcas and an increase in underwater noise pollution. Just keep that in mind. Increase in boat traffic, right? This remember they are highly intelligent creatures. So getting to back to this particular point, I was sitting there reading something about again some orcas that were attacking some different ships and things like that, and boats, etc. Then I started catching my attention when I was looking at these different articles. One of these articles started talking about how orcas, some of these captive orcas, have been tormented by being bored and family separation. But at the same time, if you release them, there's some type of ethical problems. But it's releasing them. When I did a podcast not a long time ago about even animal crackers, yeah, some people don't know what that is, and they can look it up. But some people know what I'm talking about. Those animal crackers, old school, man, it was some good. Those things were good. But I was talking about how even animal crackers have more rights than American blacks, because it wasn't even not too long ago that you had personnel within higher parts of Padambe's culture and some other people that were saying, "Oh my goodness, now this is on a box of animal crackers." People know what I'm talking about. But on a box of animal crackers, these several types of animals were anyway. They were showing like behind some kind of cage, right? And just a picture, innocent picture on a box of animal crackers. You got people that jumped up and down, and do you know that some people had got to such political maelstrom and got to the people who got to the people that say, "Hey, man, that's not right, right? That's oppressive to animals." We talking about on some darn on a box of animal crackers, and that had the little bars in the front of the animals on a box of animal crackers. And then years later, however time it took, then all of a sudden on a box of animal crackers, then it was no longer no bars in front of the animals. So some people got mad about a darn animal crackers. But with American blacks talking about racial racism, the ones that do that, then they tell American blacks to get over the past. These games. So getting back what I was talking about these particular orcas, these captive orcas, how they've been tormented by boredom and family separation. But again, with American blacks are removed from their households by different things, right? What they call the pipeline to prison, right? Scenario, right? The pipeline to prison, right? You start them young black males get in trouble. Some things happen, but instead of getting more programs and more politicalness involved, it's like, well, who care about them? That's on them, right? So they get in trouble, do some whatever it is, the thing they should be doing. They get removed from the homes, get put in the system, and then that's pretty much it for quite a number of them. Then so that's the prison, that pipeline to the prison pipeline, right? Start them off young, go to the prison situations, right? And they know how that, and the system likes that kind of stuff, right? So even in this situation, most numbers of people in various parts of society can care less about black males, black women too, but they sure don't care about black males, right? They don't care. Well, they should stop doing all these kind of things. But when numbers of people within Panama's culture get hooked on meth and things, do some more awful stuff and tear up stuff and arson stuff and rob people and sexual assault people and commit all types of white collar crimes. Oh well, it's not that quite. It's not. We got to watch what we do on that. We got to show sympathy. Go to hell with that game. And unfortunately, numbers of American blacks still ain't got it through their skulls. These games are being played, and even on this topic right here about these orcas, and there's different species of orcas. But just the thing about this talking about torment orcas in certain types of captivity are bored and family separations. But again, right? That's sympathetic, right? But American blacks start talking about uh, black folks, black American males being separated from their families. Oh well, okay, well what it is, well they need to pay child support more. I mean, start being behind on child support, start committing criminality. Black males don't commit the most crimes, first of all. Second of all, black males that do have child support do pay more pay child support on time. So get the hell out of that damn game collectively. But let me just keep going for a second. Let me get. There's another one I saw. Well, excuse me, another particular article, which kind of gets into what I'm getting at. Now, let's keep it in mind. Remember, American blacks are supposed to get over the past, right? I always talk about racism and get over it. I ain't got a thing to do with that. You know, some numbers of person that was in Panama coach playing a disgusting tactic. I ain't got a thing to do with that. Like 300 years, somebody's using the same tactic. 350 years, 250 years ago. I ain't got a thing to do with that. 200 years ago. I ain't got a thing to do with that. 20 years ago. I ain't got anything to do with that 180 years ago. I ain't got a thing to do with that 160 years ago. I ain't got a thing with that. You get the point, right? 100 years ago, right? Black folks going through still formal segregation before many other cultures even arrived, even stayed in America, right? 60 years ago, still American blacks still going through black pain. But you got people saying, I ain't got to do with that. You see the game of that crap? But the same people will have sympathy for orcas and dolphins because they are in the same families, basically, like cousins. And you got people to this day that's saying they shouldn't be at certain type of entertaining facilities, shall I say, that utilize dolphins and utilize certain types of orcas. You got people right now. They shouldn't be doing that to those innocent creatures. But remember, American blacks start talking about racial racism. They always talk about racial racism. They need to get over the past. This game. So getting to this particular story here, they talking about how basically how why orcas have been attacking some different boats and different things, right? And then however time sinking them. They talk about how about 4 years and hundreds of incidents. Researchers remain puzzled why orcas, also known as killer whales, continue to ram boats, sinking a fear of them along the Iberian Peninsula, which is basically around various parts of the western coast of Portugal, some parts of Spain, some parts of Gibraltar, right? Even go certain parts of around northern parts of west parts of Africa, parts of it, right? On that. But the Iberian Peninsula is mostly western parts of Portugal, parts of Gibraltar, some parts of Spain in general. So they're talking about how the most recent incident was the sinking of a yacht on October 31st in the Strait of Gibraltar. They talking about how the origin of these interactions remain a great mystery. It remains a great mystery. How they talking about how this particular person and personnel, they don't believe this behavior is aggressive. So certain orcas are attacking boats, sailboats, etc. But that's not being aggressive. But American blacks, oh my God! But American blacks, they're violent. They're attacking people in different cultures and all the, they being anti-Semitic, which is the whole different game in itself. I want to go into all that part. They're talking Asian personnel. They're talking. I mean, they're going all over the place, right? And you found that the number one people who have the most hatred put upon them is American blacks. This game is ridiculous. So again, relating to the article I'm reading, right? The behavior of those particular orcas is not aggressive. So he talks about how the people talk about how there have been hundreds of interactions for the last several years. They talk about one of these other ones not too long ago, in a few months ago, was that an orca had rammed a 7-ton yacht. Had rammed a 7-ton yacht multiple times off the Shetland Islands in Scotland. But remember what I said earlier. Oh, they've not really been aggressive. You see that? You see how that goes, right? It's like minimizing that, right? Minimizing it. But American blacks, some that make mistakes, oh, they're being violent. This game in itself. Continuing, give me 1 second. Okay, see, most of the interactions have been involving have involved sailboats, but fishing boats, semi-rigid boats, and motorboats haven't gone unscathed. But remember, I was reading earlier. Oh, they're not really been aggressive. Again, having more sympathy for orcas than they have for American blacks, right? And so one of these last things I want to relay on this is that they talk about how are these same killer whales attacking boats or unrelated incidents. So they're talking about how this hypotheses, hypotheses or something like that, hypothesizing or whatever it is, that the interactions could be. Listen to this: the interactions could be a self-induced behavior where you're inventing something new and repeating it. This behavior coincides with the profile of the juveniles. This person that they relate, it could also be a response to aversive situation. One or several individuals had lived a bad experience and tried to stop the boat so as not to repeat it. This behavior coincides with the profile of adults as well. In that saying that they also, through their DNA, be it however particular species of orcas that have had harm put upon them and different things going on other orcas, and then that stuff has been ingrained in certain type of orcas DNA part, right? Where they're tired of certain people having entitlement to different parts of their sea, causing however destruction and thinking they own various parts of the sea, right? And however many of the orcas and whales, but we're talking about orcas right now, have been caught in fishing nets and different things like that. And what I was talking about earlier, how still those boat noises. You don't remember like orcas and like other different sea creatures and other parts. They have this high, this way, this sound waves that bounces off that their heads, and it's like how like dogs have this gigantic perception, and they're smelling and they're hearing. Well, the orcas are no different. They have this sense, especially underwater, right? Where it can key in on certain things, stuff like that from a long way, and they can hear those type of noises through the ocean and stuff like that. Remember, the ocean, that water is a definitely high conductor of sound, right? And so you hear all these motorboats and all these different things going on loud and it's messing stuff up, and you have however sailboats and people all over the place, and then how many people orcas have got ran over and things like this, and that sounds like some trauma, right? And you have people sit there and sympathizing for that, right? But when you say American blacks, hey man, American blacks been suffering for generations. I'm not talking about the Sambos and Samboesses and the other sellouts and stuff like that. They get their little the certain people within plant-based culture that can't, the ones that can't stand the little Sambos, they using Sambos thinking they getting over and stuff like that, and they'll be thrown out like some piece of trash eventually, right? For the next Sambo. The same game repeats itself over and over again. And unfortunately, certain numbers of Sambo, or most Sambos and all Sambos and all Samboesses, they don't get it. And you got some other gullible numbers of American blacks that don't get it. That's because numbers of American blacks act like that they haven't got a direct black pain. It don't mean that they have not been shown it. They sometimes there are American blacks that are very naive to what's going around. There are ones that have something that happened to them, but then through black pain, they shut down their mindset. And because so much black pain, they act like it really didn't happen, right? Survival technique. And then supremacists sit back and laugh because they say, these black Negroes, boy, they easy to sit there and mess over a little bit. We got them so messed up, they don't know what direction to go. Now, the historical American blacks, there is nobody compares to historical American blacks in this country. And supremacists knows that, but that's a different topic in itself. So the last thing I want to talk about is the nonsensical part. When I was in there reading how they was talking about how some personnel was talking about, and how other people was talking about how in some kind of legalness that they were saying that there was a problem of having some of those orcas being captured basically and put inside some of those entertainment places, I'm talking about, where people go watch and see some orcas or see some dolphins doing these entertaining things, and you have however organizations saying, wait a minute now, that give me 1 second, that they were equating dolphins or orcas that were being captured. They were sitting there trying to relay that there is a similarness to that of slavery. What? How there was a legalness complaint that it was talking about these particular whales that had been captured and different things like that, and were being held in slavery or involuntary servitude, right? Which that violated the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. Ain't that some what? You had personnel that can be strewed as warpness that had the nerve to compare some of these different, unfortunately, captured orcas and or dolphins, etc., and try to equate their capture with enslavement, and that and they were being held in slavery or involuntary servitude, and that was a violation of the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. How the people were saying that how these particular orcas were forcibly taken from their families and natural habitats, and they were held at this particular place or places in different places here, different places, some other places, what I'm talking about, and how they were denied everything that is natural to them. American blacks were centuries subjugated to artificial insemination to breed performers. Don't want that happened with American black males, specifically American black women, making people breed. But remember, centuries later, I ain't got anything to do with that. By certain numbers of ones within the plant-based culture, you see the sickness that some of them have, right? Sickness. But the same however number of ones will have sympathy for orcas and whales that were captured and put in certain type of entertaining facilities. You see how that goes? And so the last part of this, it was talking about how these personnel had the nerve to talk about how they were questioning whether a non-human entity can basically seek redress for violation of constitutional rights. These people were thinking that orcas should have the same supposed to be protections under the 13th Amendment of the Constitution that American blacks are supposed to have, and did not get it in 1865. When people weren't even thinking about trying to capture orcas left and right or whales left and right and put them on display and have them jumping up and down, jump at the water. They weren't even thinking about stuff like that in that kind of way. But in 1865, prior to the 13th Amendment Constitution, American blacks were obviously being in enslavement for centuries before that. And even after 1865, the 13th Amendment Constitution, and even after that, American blacks still wasn't free, still were considered citizens. So it's interesting that the personnel that try to play this little ignorant, infantile tactic to try to equate that orcas that have been enslaved, right, to entertain folks, that they are a non-human entity. Well, why can't they have constitutional rights by the 13th Amendment Constitution? You see this nonsense, right? So when I read that, when I was reading this concept, I said, "What an insult!" American blacks are told again to get over the past, left and right. But again, when you talk about things like that, well, what about reparations to redress those terrible things that's happened to American blacks for generations, right? When the 13th Amendment of the Constitution came into effect, came out in 1865, that didn't give American blacks that didn't make American black citizens, and that didn't give the rights to American blacks to vote. Do you see this this game? But it's very infantile that the personnel who brought this bull nonsense up to try to equate that basically orcas, basically hey, 13th Amendment didn't really necessarily say was talking about human beings. You see the nonsense of this. How organizations will sit there and play little silly games like this, but at the same time say, hey, what about American blacks? Well, what about them? Right? See, American blacks have no comparison of the type of inhumane treatment for centuries, and to have no and to have no reparations after that. And I'm gonna say this again: don't even think about saying, "What about the Native Americans?" Go to hell. How many numbers of Native Americans enslaved American blacks? And even after it was supposed to be after the Civil War, you had numbers of Native Americans that still did not want to free numbers of American blacks. So go to hell with that tactic, right? And how many numbers of Native Americans get restitution right now? And most people, especially numbers of people within predominant culture, don't say, no, let me say this again. You do not hear many numbers of personnel within predominant culture that say, I had nothing to do with doing some of those heinous things to what we call Native Americans. Do you? You do not. But at the same dang time, reparations going up. So many Native American tribes. And how many of them come from great, 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 great parents and parents who sit there and put themselves on what they call the Dawes role and whatever other role? They had nothing to do with being any kind of what we call Native American. They were just regular personnel within the Panama-based culture, or some immigrating person from some place that looked like some personnel within the Panama-based culture, paid a few ding dollars and call themselves Native Americans. What about them? See, this is disgusting, but it's brilliant, right? Because numbers of personnel within the Panama-based culture, quite a number of numbers of personnel within the Panama-based culture won't talk about that, right? But taxpayers' money is going to reparations for many numbers of what we call Native Americans. Many numbers of what we call Native Americans are getting reparations on taxpayers' dimes. But you got many people don't say a dang thing about that, do they? But at the same darn time, when American blacks are the ones who say, wait, what about us? Right? What about reparations for centuries of inhumane treatment more than anybody else in this country? Anybody. And over time, still, and no one else was put in formal segregation for so long as the American blacks. So what about the American blacks? Reparations. No, I ain't got anything to do with that. See the tactic? And even with that, with the Orca situation, as I just read, the nerve of personnel that try to equate or try to do some legalness to say, wait a minute now, well, can no, none, well, you know what? Well, I mean, well, 13th Amendment Constitution, I mean, well, I mean, does it, let me read you something. It said 13th Amendment, they was talking about how the 13th Amendment outlaws slavery and involuntary servitude in the United States without any specific mention that it applies to only people. Do you see the game the personnel do? So I just want to just bring it up. It was something interesting on that. Because again, American blacks are told every day to forget about the past, to get over it. I ain't got anything to do with this. But this situation with the orcas, these particular orcas have been ramming boats and things like that and sinking however numbers of boats. Oh, well, there might be some problems going on, but maybe it's because some different things in their past and things like this, and it's been passed down. And how we got to be sympathetic to that. But American blacks go through hell and high water and black pain for generations. Again, I'm not talking about the sellouts, are the ones that are gullible, that don't understand that they're being used, and they get laughed at every freaking day because like those Negroes don't even realize we giving reparations to however numbers of what we call Native Americans. We've given reparations to what we call now the Japanese people. We got reparations to Ukrainian people. reparations to border breaking illegal immigration personnel. We give reparations of some kind to people who immigrate over here. How numbers of them? We give them free type of services and programs and business programs where they're specifically in. We help them out with homes and different things like that, left and right. And then we're gonna so black folks don't understand this game. And you talking about 13 Amendment Constitution, the 13, especially the 14 Amendment Constitution, which is supposed to be actually giving citizenship to basically by American blacks in 1868. So by 13 Amendment Constitution, black folks supposed to be free. The 14 Amendment Constitution was supposed to finally give American blacks citizenship, right? And you got people using the 13th Amendment Constitution, right, and the 14th Amendment Constitution to sit there talking about equality clause. And you got border breaking illegal immigration personnel and other types of people who know they are immigrating, different things like that utilize the same type of amendments. Boop, 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 pop out baby upon baby, and stuff like that, automatic citizenship. So border breaker, illegal immigrant personnel runs across the border, left and right, pops out how many darn babies, wherever it is, automatic citizenship, right on the backbones of American blacks. And you got other persons who know they are, who get on whatever the programs to come to America, and they've been told already, they know who they are. Hey, you know what? You're not a citizen, but you know what? I don't think I do is try to have a baby or babies, and they are anchored. Then you will be anchored to the United States because they're not gonna really deport you unless you did some really crazy stuff. And even with that, most times you're not gonna go anywhere, especially if it's a mother on that. So it's good just have a baby or babies, and you'll be anchored to the states. Automatic citizenship for that baby or babies. Thanks again to American Black Pain. So I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP.